In the world of Sakamoto Days, there are many insane assassins with powers you could never even imagine. But the ones who stand at the tippity top of this world are the monsters known as the Order. These assassins are equal to or even stronger than Taro Sakamoto himself. Don't believe me? Well, just take a look at this old man.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
The entire existence of the Order itself is so mysterious and deadly that it's considered an urban legend amongst the people. But that is not the case. However, to completely understand who the hell these people even are, we have to rewind all the way back to the beginning of its creation. You see, the Order are a sub-organization of the JAA reserved for solely the strongest assassins in the world. It's limited to just 10 members at a time, but the level of power needed to join the Order is so high that all 10 spots have never been taken at the same time. Their goal is to maintain the order of the assassin world when friction in the industry becomes problematic. Basically, you don't want these guys coming after you, or you know you are up. Starting with the founder, Satoru freaking Yotsumura. Whilst at face value he was a badass looking teacher who would come in and do special lectures once a year, he was actually an incredibly skilled assassin and the number 2 of the JAA. During his prime, Yotsumura was assigned a mission to eliminate conspirators planning to assassinate the chief of the JAA. However, he also cherished his personal life. Like Sakamoto, Yotsumura had a loving family with his wife Shino, another assassin, and their son Amane. However, upon returning home one day, he discovered a devastating truth that changed his life forever. His wife, Shino, was actually one of the conspirators Yotsumura was ordered to kill. She had married him and had Amane all as part of their plan, intending to use their son as leverage in her mission. Because of this, Yotsumura entered work mode instantly to protect his son and was forced to kill Shino. This backfired though, as his son witnessed the act, believing his father killed her out of his own desire. As a result, Amane resented Yotsumura, wanting him dead whilst also harboring an incredible hatred for the JAA to the point that he worshipped X and his group. Unfortunately, Yotsumura's life was only gonna get worse. The chief of the JAA was assassinated regardless by the conspirators, with one of the executives taking the place of the new chief. He, however, caused a ruckus by framing Yotsumura as the killer. Because of this, he was banished from the Order and sentenced to death, with his own student Shishida being the one to get the job done. However, he failed and Yotsumura got away. He spent the rest of his life planning to wipe out the JAA for what they did, and so that he could finally see his son again and look him in the eye. Because he was still out there conducting murders though, the Order was tasked to find and kill him. But this is where we learn just how powerful Yotsumura truly is. You see, the JAA dispatched not 1, not 2, but 3 Order members to kill him. And it comes as to no surprise why. Yotsumura is capable of taking on Shishida and Nagumo simultaneously, and even managing to hold his own momentarily when Osaragi joined the fight. His mastery in combat is a reflection of his incredible physical strength, allowing him to casually parry Shishida's powerful strikes from a distance, flip an SUV he was driving with a single swing of his weapon, kick a car hard enough to send it flying to the end of the carrier, and even slice through the walls of multiple traditional Japanese houses with his 3-section staff. And it's worth noting just how fast he can perform these actions too, as he is capable of reacting far faster than the average human. For instance, he bisected 5 armed assassins in an instant, even whilst they had him at gunpoint, and he wasn't even looking in their direction, which is also how he managed to instantly kill his wife. By moving so fast, she died without even seeing him move. He does all this with his weapon of choice, which is a 3-section staff equipped with a small razor-sharp blade on one end. One of his most impressive qualities, however, is actually his durability, as he survived a fall from a small building during his fight with Shishida, and even faked his own death after being thrown into a lake with a bleeding shoulder wound caused by his hammer strike. That's where, despite these injuries, Nagumo found him, hoping to use Yotsumura's supposed death as a means to gather information from within the JAA using his connections as the former number 2. If he didn't agree, Nagumo vowed to kill his son Amane. Thus, even in his own death, Yotsumura is still held captive, as once again his son's life is on the line, reminding us of the vicious cycle of the assassin world which Yotsumura helped build. But he's not the only founder of the order, as there's also Kindaka. You see, when a group of troublesome young assassins in the JCC like, Nagumo, Uzuki, Sakamoto and a cow get out of hand, they're sent on an exclusive and super important mission. However, this mission is actually a death sentence where they are sent to face Kindaka, the fastest assassin to ever live. However, on the very, very, very rare occasion the students survive, they're offered to join the Order. And when I say rare, I mean it. Nobody has ever completed this assignment before, until Sakamoto and his group, of course. But despite being one of the founding members of Japan's most deadly assassination group, Kindaka is pretty considerate of others and very friendly, particularly when it comes to protecting innocent lives. He even avoided targeting Uzuki when going full speed using max gear by slamming on an emergency brake, doing his back in the process, as he believed Uzuki was uninvolved with the mission, a mistake he would one day regret big time. That's because Kindaka's life took a dark turn after a later confrontation with Uzuki, which left him in a coma for over 8 years. In fact, it was assumed he would never wake up. But when Kindaka did finally wake up, the world he re-entered was far from the one he'd helped create. Yet his principles remained intact, and he chose to ally once again with Sakamoto and Nagumo. However, by this point, those two had already been expelled by the Order and deemed enemies of the JAA. In spite of this, he helped them, ultimately turning his own back on the Order as well. After all, the Order he once knew was no longer the same, because during his and Yotsumura's time in the group, there were also 2 more members, one of which being the legendary, the iconic, the strongest Takamura. This guy is the epitome of what it means to be a badass old man in anime. He is a retired aura farmer without doubt. Thus, it is no surprise that Takamura earned the title of being a killer with no brakes. Power is pretty much all he knows. He mostly just mutters to himself as it's his sword that does all the talking. Acting mostly on instinct, Takamura can instantly target those he senses hostility from, or any target marked by the JAA or the Order. And unlike Kindaka, Takamura doesn't give a shit if you're caught in the crossfire. He will slice an entire building in half with a single attack without a care in the world of who is in there, as long as his target is. That being said, he can be nice still. He helped Sakamoto save Tokyo Tower from collapsing, showing that he still had some sense of justice. Yet this didn't stop him later turning on Sakamoto and Nagumo during the assassination exhibit after the JAA placed bounties on them. And that's because his loyalty to the JAA and his mission is possibly the only thing stronger than his blade, as Takamura even cut off his own arm when he was trapped by X's organization. And to put into perspective just how insanely powerful this dude actually is, he's the only character to genuinely strike fear into X and his group. Even Slur feared facing him, hoping Takamura was already dead. And that is just how legendary his strength is, as Takamura is also the only person capable of defeating Sakamoto, Nagumo, Uzuki, Gaku, and Haruma simultaneously with ease, all of which are either former Order members, on the level of being ones like Uzuki or Gaku, or below like Haruma. Sakamoto himself believed Takamura had grown even stronger over time. His speed and reflexes were so advanced that he could move faster than the human eye could see, slashing opponents before they even realized what was happening. Even whilst walking slowly, he could attack without any visible movement. He could also block blows from the likes of Sakamoto with minimal effort, slice through steel and concrete, and even sever a museum in half by bracing his sword sheath against the floor. Seriously, leave some aura for the rest of us, please, old man. Oh wait, actually, you know what? never mind, because I forgot that there was also the time where Takamura once decapitated a JAA assassin so swiftly that the victim had time to see their own severed head spinning in a mirror. What the f***? In fact, his precision with the blade is so incredibly clean that severed limbs could be reattached with minimal surgery, retaining full functionality. But then possibly the most iconic thing this geezer has done is use bullets shot at him to sharpen his katana mid-fight.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Unfortunately though, aura of this magnitude was simply too much for Sakamoto Days. As a result, Takamura met his fate against Slur. In spite of this, Takamura's impact had such an everlasting effect on Slur that he adopted the old man's entire personality as a coping mechanism. But there's still one last member of the original 4 Order members, and his name is Yo. Bro might have been a total hothead, but he was still a loyal member of both the JAA and the Order. However, his morals are still a priority though, as he initially refused to give Sakamoto information about the JAA, but later changed his mind when he realized Sakamoto's intent was to protect his family. However, before joining the Order, Sho was viewed as one of the least talented assassins by Yotsumura. But in true shonen fashion, bro worked tirelessly to prove himself, eventually becoming one of the strongest members of the Order. Because of this, Sho saw a reflection of his younger self in Heisuke Mashimo. Nonetheless, despite his successes of reaching the top of the assassin world, Sho never saw himself as a true assassin, admitting he lacked the qualities of others in the Order. And that, of course, came down to his good nature, something which will always hold even the top assassins back. You see, Sho tends to worry about saving lives rather than solely taking them, which is why he helped Sakamoto out due to their similar beliefs. But like him, this also made him feel out of place in the brutal world of superhuman killer assassins. For example, he scolded Osaragi for reckless driving to protect an elderly passenger, apologized to a doctor after a destructive hospital fight, and went out of his way to help Heisuke when his luggage went missing at the airport. Whilst fighting Kumanomi, Sho intentionally shielded civilians from harm, taking blows meant for them. This led her to mock him as incompatible with being an assassin. And talking of this fight, this was where we saw the power that Sho truly was capable of. Unlike other Order members, he preferred unarmed combat, using his immense strength and speed to defeat his opponents. He could punch through steel, shatter piers, and even overpower Kumanomi's electromagnetic abilities. In one fight, he carried an activated MRI machine weighing several tons, enduring metal projectiles and blows without flinching. His chin strap alone was strong enough to deflect a bullet. Even when Kumanomi fired a bullet straight through his last functioning eye and into his brain, Sho continued to fight. He then subsequently launched himself into the water, knowing that it was only a matter of time before he died, but hoped to take her down with him. Even when she used her abilities to summon nearby poles and boat motors to pierce through his body, Sho held on tight, forcing Kumanami to amputate her own arm in order to escape his grip and her own death. But we now move on to the following generation, because of course, following Kindaka's coma and Yotsumura's betrayal, a new leader was needed, and his name was Oki. He is the guy that nobody likes. Bro is allergic to any kind of fun. For example, he scolded Shishida, Osaragi, and Kamihate all for being just 1 minute and 14 seconds late to a meeting. Now, don't get me wrong, nobody likes tardiness, right? But when Shishida joked that Oki should just kill him, Bro instead told him to submit a formal request to the JAA if he wishes for that to be the case. Yeah, what a load of fun this guy is. But the reason behind his straight-faced boringness is the reason why he's perfect to lead the Order. And that's because his sense of responsibility is like no other. He believes a leader like him must be held accountable for the actions of his subordinates, including their lateness. In fact, his belief in responsibility runs so deep that he's willing to die in order to atone for the loss of 4 Order members and several JAA branches which were destroyed under his his command, but his sense of responsibility and loyalty is only matched by his morality. You see, similar to Hyo, he tries to keep civilians out of harm's way, such as when pursuing Sakamoto, Shin and Nagumo, he insisted on not using guns in order to lower the odds of collateral damage. Now, unfortunately, little is known about Oki's past or his overall strength levels, as he spent most of his time on a mission abroad, but the fact that he leads the Order means bro is going to be no slouch, that is for sure. But there is also one more member of the Order that I want to give a little honourable mention to, even if she isn't an actual member, and that is Satoda sensei. You see, she was offered the chance to join the Order because of how strong she was. She had an unbelievable knack of detecting and understanding the abilities of others, like how she realised Akira Akao could see a path that allowed her to kill her opponent, similar to someone like Tanjiro. She also saw Sebe despite being invisible, and he actually claimed that Satoda sensei was impossible to hit due to her unmatched mastery of Aikido. However, even in her death, her strongest trait was her determination to protect her students as she continued to fight after taking fatal injuries such as a deep slash to the neck and a missing eye. But as I said, in her prime, she turned down the chance to join the Order to instead teach the next generation at the JCC, the Golden Age of Assassins, led by the main man himself, Taro Sakamoto. Now, to understand this, we have to go back to chapter 107, where Sakamoto's past is revealed. Not only his, but also his friends too, who were invited to be members of the Order, as Sakamoto, Nagumo and Akao were next level when compared to their classmates. They were so strong that it was better to let them fight out their aggression, because otherwise they could kill a student by accident. The other students were just simply nothing in comparison. In the game of paintball, they were knocked out for over 9 hours whilst the trio continued to fight. Furthermore, because of them causing so much structural damage, they were expelled, but Satoda, which we've already mentioned, gave them a chance to survive with the mission against Kindaka. This then made them the youngest members of the Order ever. Despite passing this test though, they still can't return to school and have to complete a mission where they escort a VIP to the airport. All three of them show off just how busted they are, with Akao deflecting a bullet easily, Sakamoto using a handgun as a sniper and killing this guy instantly, whilst Nagumo displays his efficiency in close quarters combat, leading Kondo to state that these kids are beyond any normal assassin's level. Now, I can't go over the entire mission, but it's crazy to say the least, and this is the kind of thing that members of the Order experience all the time. But unfortunately, at the end of it all, Akao, well, dies, and Azuki flees after being supposedly killed by Sakamoto, which leaves both him and Nagumo as the only two left to be recruited into the Order. Thus, now would probably be a good time to talk about the greatest assassin to ever live, Taro Sakamoto. He was amazing. All bad guys feared him, and all hitmen revered him. Sakamoto was very much the face of the Order when he was in his prime, and he may not have been on the level of Takamura, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't still the greatest when it comes to assassination. The reason for this is what Akao mentioned. Within a room full of random objects, Sakamoto would win 100 times out of 100, and this is significant. An assassin has to use their surroundings to their advantage, and Sakamoto was by far the GOAT at this. We're talking cold water at 3 AM, 2012 Lionel Messi, OG Fortnite level assassination skills. Then during his prime, Sakamoto was also the best in seemingly all combat. And why do we know this? Well, the database, aka the man who has been working at the JCC for years and has a photographic memory seeing countless talented assassins, said that Sakamoto was the best fighter he'd ever seen. Like I said, he truly was the face of this new golden age of the Order. But to understand how strong he is, we have to briefly go over some of his insane feats. We've seen him deflect bullets with a cough drop, stop a bus with a stop sign, deflect sniper bullets with his bare hands. Then he even showed on the stealth mission that he can still be stealthy despite his size. Not even Shin could sense him with his mind reading when he does this. And well, he's also a master of seemingly every weapon ever. I mean, he was the top-ranked sniper in the JCC until Heisuke showed up. But Sakamoto truly showed what he's made of in his battles. Sakamoto's first of which, after retiring, was against Boiled, who had been active the entire time Sakamoto was gone, and despite this, when he transforms back into his skinny form, Boiled stood zero chance. We also later see him fight against another member of the Order, Kanaguri, who managed to kill Satoda. Yet Sakamoto, after his upgrade from Granny Mia, still manages to have the upper hand against him without even transforming. And I'll get into Kanaguri more soon, but the key takeaway here is that Sakamoto easily defeats him once he does transform. Now, I've also mentioned how Sakamoto was stronger than Nagumo, but how do we know this? Well, when fighting Takamura, Nagumo stood zero chance against him, while Sakamoto didn't fare much better. He still put up a much better fight. This is despite being significantly weaker than his prime, as he mentioned that he needs to get back to that point. And how exactly does Sakamoto plan to do that? Well, by farming XP against members of the Order. Yep, that's right. He not only managed to take a blow from Kindaka in chapter 177, but also landed a pretty heavy one in return. Then quickly following this, he faces Torres, one of the newer members of the Order, who is no joke, but again, we'll get into more about him later. But essentially, Torres simply wants Sakamoto to get stronger so that his bounty is worth more, as he is 60 million yen in debt. Meaning, whilst yes, he is technically holding back, it goes to show Sakamoto's level when only members of the Order are worth training against. But of course, we can't keep mentioning Sakamoto without finally talking about his assassin bestie from school, Nagumo. Nagumo may seem to exist only to exude constant aura, but he's seriously no joke, being the borderline replacement to Sakamoto as the face of the Order when he left. You see, Nagumo was born into a family of assassins, with his primary ability being to copy other people's appearances perfectly and instantly. We're talking about a perfect copy here. He not only looks like them, but copies their mannerisms, voice, etc, etc. I mean, it's so broken that he could even transform others for an extended period of time, as he turned Sakamoto into Aoi for 24 hours so that he could infiltrate as a substitute teacher at the JCC. This makes Nagumo a perfect assassin. I mean, what's better than blending into your environment to take an easy kill? However, he has a different approach to assassinations than Sakamoto, saying that the key to killing is deception despite him hating it. Don't get it twisted though, Nagumo can still destroy you in a 1v1. I mean, his killing intent is so strong it's basically Conqueror's Haki and can render you unconscious. But of course, as I already mentioned, Nagumo and Sakamoto are extremely close and are practically best friends despite all the shit that's gone on and them being disconnected for years. After all, Nagumo was the one to tell Sakamoto about the bounty on his head at the start of the series to protect him and his family. The thing that will really blow your mind though is that Granny Mia explained that Nagumo is now stronger than Sakamoto due to his retirement, and their danger levels support this, as Sakamoto is B tier whilst Nagumo is S. Partially due to the fact that, like Sakamoto, he is also a jack of all trades, shown by his weapon the multi-tool, which has 6 different functions. But the thing is, he mainly uses this because he finds killing too easy. In fact, he rolls a dice just to choose which weapon to use. But we saw just how broken he is when fighting Gaku, who Nagumo stated was the strongest opponent he'd ever fought. I mean, this guy was so powerful that he resembled a young Sakamoto and was one of X's right-hand men. Gaku actually seemed to outmatch Nagumo in raw power, but they were tied in terms of speed, whilst Nagumo is much better technically, as these advantages didn't seem to matter, especially in the clash when Nagumo uses an invisible blade to end the battle, using flashy moves to hide his real intent. And now, the end of the fight isn't actually shown, but we know that Nagumo got the dub, as he actually disguised himself as Gaku and faked his own death to land a crucial blow on Azuki, which would have killed him if not for his uniquely mirrored body. And so yeah, Nagumo is by far one of the strongest characters in the entire series, as both he and Sakamoto almost ended the story early. But there are still some other busted members outside of these two. I mean, I didn't call it the golden age of the Order for nothing. Starting with the man who fought Sakamoto and put up a damn good fight, Kamihate Kamihate, the master sniper. Now, unlike the others in the order who seem to have power, speed, durability, etc., Kamihate is very specialized in sniping, just like Heisuke. But there's a reason he's in the order despite only having this one skill. But you see, he's very introverted, and not even the other order members have seen his face, choosing to talk through his sniper bullets instead. He never leaves the house without his sniper, to the point that it's essentially a part of his body now, and the only time he's ever distracted is by girls, just like every shut-in. Sorry, did I call Kamihate the master sniper? I meant the master gooner. Nonetheless, Kamihate hates the outside world, just like all gooners. And so when Sakamoto and Heisuke face him, he's forced to admit he finds the world scary. Now, Taro makes it clear that Kamihate is no joke, and the point is driven home when he manages to injure the legendary hitman. Also, Kamihate holds the Guinness World Record for the long-distance sniper and was in the top 100 assassins, never missing his mark. He is the Deadshot of this universe. We're talking about millimeter precision here. Sakamoto says that he's so skilled that with one bullet, he can control an entire area. Yeah, bro just casually has his own domain expansion. In all seriousness though, he can land a hit from over 8 kilometers away with perfect headshots. And so, as you'd expect, the only one who can stop him is Heisuke. But even his main weapon, being his ricochet bullets, is something Kamihate is also insanely good at, using a spinning tire to alter the bullet's course. And despite me saying that he just specializes in sniping, when Heisuke manages to shoot him from point blank range, he somehow dodges it. The only reason Heisuke won in the end was thanks to some talk no jutsu, meaning that at least at the moment, Kamihate is still the greatest sniper in the world and deserves his spot in the order as one of the only members directly complemented by Sakamoto. One person who wasn't though was Kanaguri. You see, he may work for X now, but at one point Kanaguri was an instrumental member of the order with his unique fighting style which involves his camera. That's because Kanaguri loves movies and the whole art of filmmaking in general, which is why he subscribed to our channel Movie Balls D. But Kanaguri is so obsessed with absolute cinema that his entire mood depends on it. Honestly, incredibly relatable. Anyone who insults movies pisses him off to no end, and when his camera is destroyed, he actually gets weaker. But if he gains a replacement, he gets stronger. Kanaguri is also so fast that he got behind both Sakamoto and Akira without them realizing, and goes on to dodge Sakamoto's attack straight after. In fact, he's so fast that Shin's clairvoyance can't keep up with him. He also killed Satoda sensei before then in a fight with Sakamoto, where Kanaguri genuinely put him on the back foot, forcing him to transform. Now, for some reason, his camera can shoot focused energy blasts that can burn holes in seemingly anything, as it easily opens up a hole in the plane he was on. Yeah, this is no ordinary IMAX camera he's running around with. But despite being completely outmatched in his fight with Sakamoto, it is important to note that the guy is genuinely built different. I mean, the entire reason he got into the order is because he killed his old friend who was also a member and earned their place. However, his love for movies does sometimes come back to bite him, as not only are his emotions dictated by movies, but those around Kanaguri don't seem to like him too much either, as he's too loud. I mean, this guy will go to simply any lengths in order for him to capture peak fiction for his movie. In fact, all the world famous assassin movies that he's made, which is where he got his career built from, are in fact things that he recorded out on actual assassin missions. Luckily, I know someone who won't give you that kind of trouble, and he's not only busted, but he's also one of Sakamoto's friends from his day in the order. I'm of course talking about Shishida. He has the rare trait of having morals, from believing that kills shouldn't be done in public, to looking down on Yotsumura for having a fanatical belief in killing. Plus, as Sakamoto's friend, you'd expect Shishida to be very skilled, and you'd be right. He has all the usual skills of a top level assassin, but he takes it one step further. From reading Morse code to insane speed and durability, but what makes him really unique are his weapons. Shishida uses claw hammers to dismantle his opponents, but he uses these because he believes they're the perfect weapon, because they can both hit and gouge out things and never have to be sharpened. Bro uses them to snap people's necks, and he's possibly the greatest master of a single weapon in the entire series, other than maybe Takamura with his katana. And thanks to using all of his speed, power, and intelligence, Shishida can use these hammers more efficiently, from shifting momentum with them in fights, to blocking bullets with them. Hell, he even used the reflection on them to his advantage. But what shows that Shishida is currently one of the strongest assassins alive is the fact that he defeated his former mentor, Yotsumura. Needless to say, he was insanely powerful, as we mentioned earlier, but Shishida outmatched his former mentor in their bout, as Yotsumura was the one to teach Shishida the ways of being an assassin. They were so close that they became not only partners, but family, as Yotsumura even invited him to meet his. This is the whole reason that Shishida couldn't finish him off. Yotsumura even said that if Shishida's mindset was different, he'd be a higher rank within the order, meaning that the power is there. He's an A-rank threat according to Kashima, meaning he's a little weaker than Nagumo, which is expected, but he's also able to fight off both Haruma and Kumanomi at the same time. Pretty much every one of Shishida's battles were interrupted and didn't have a conclusive winner, but obviously the main battle of his is against Yotsumura, where he was a clear winner, surviving his brutal attacks. I mean, he does say that there was no way Yotsumura could have ever beaten him, and he's even willing to fight Nagumo, which speaks volumes. But just like how Yotsumura was for him, Shishida also became a mentor to someone, and that is Osaragi, aka the baddest girl in Sakamoto Days. Yeah, I said it, come at me. Now, Osaragi may be childish and often acts on pure instinct or impulse, but she is no joke. We can assume she joined the order soon after Sakamoto left because she didn't know him, stating he was like a bear. But how strong actually is she? Is she worthy of being a member of the order despite being a petite woman who grew up on a farm? Well, yes, she may have zero experience, but she is a true prodigy in assassination. You'd think that perhaps Osaragi would be weak in terms of power, right? Because of her size, she's probably a speed type. Well, not exactly. She possesses absurd physical strength for no reason other than the fact that the gods of battle shonen willed it upon her, as she can break large Buddha statues, cut down torii gates, and kick opponents multiple meters. But she does also have the speed to match, being able to slice up Kashima's main crew in under a second, and she even pulled a Sakamoto when she used a coin to defend herself against a sneak attack. So yeah, even without a weapon, she is busted. But what is her signature weapon? I mean, most members of the order seem to have one. Well, for her, it is a collapsible buzzsaw of all things. I can fix her up, I promise. Osaragi seems to feel no pain. She's been impaled before and was just like,
light work, no reaction.
But listen, we obviously need to talk about her battles to prove that she is worthy of being in order as a prodigy. Well, you see, Osaragi easily killed Dump, an A-ranked serial killer who had killed over 180 people. Remember that Sakamoto and co were struggling against these escapees, but Osaragi took care of this guy like he was nothing. Not just that, but when fighting Dump, she taught him about religion by smashing his head over and over again into a bow of sorts. But it's not like she actually cares about religion, since she destroyed religious monuments without care, meaning that this was all likely just her idea of fun. However, Osaragi is kind enough to say that she does care about people, feeling that they shouldn't be involved in the life of assassins, so she clearly has some sense of justice, which she probably picked up from Shishida. Then, when fighting Geisha, who actually managed to evade one of Yotsumura's attacks, she took care of her like it was nothing. I mean, Osaragi somehow managed to kill Geisha instantly whilst in public, keeping it quiet from everyone nearby, then crawling out from under the sheet like a child. Then, fast forwarding to chapter 143, Shin and Mafuyu fighting against her, where Mafuyu realizes he's not only screwed in terms of speed, but Osaragi's raw power alone is also just too much. He stood zero chance against her as she literally punched and kicked him through buildings. Then when frozen by Seba, it takes her barely any time at all to return back to normal. The only reason Shin and the others even escaped is because she mistook him for a ghost, and she's got a serious fear of them. But despite always being logical and focusing on killing, as Shin mentioned, Osaragi freaks the fuck out when someone hurts Shishida. Given his reaction to her losing it, it's clear that she hides some power behind her childish antics and is possibly stronger than her mentor, which would mirror Yotsumura and Shishida as well. Meaning there's a level to Osaragi that we might not have even seen yet, and something about that scares me, but also excites me. But one of the newest members is Tanabata after the losses of Sho and Takamura. Whilst we don't know much about him just yet, we do know that he enjoys music, as seen in his first appearance in chapter 170 outside a pachinko parlor. I mean, when Osaragi accidentally misread the vibe of a song Tanabata wrote, he immediately attacked her. I've seen this somewhere before. In fact, Tanabata's so obsessed that his entire fighting style seems to revolve around his guitar. I mean, we talked about how broken Osaragi is, and he still knocked her out for a second just by strumming his guitar. He also uses the shockwaves from his guitar to attack, sending it through objects to attack Sakamoto. This was so strong that it burst a manhole cover, and he managed to jack it into Sakamoto's arm and send shockwaves throughout his entire body. So despite this guy only just being introduced, he's easily on the same level of Osaragi at least, and we're only going to see more. But he's not the only brand new member, and that is where Torres comes in. Yep, despite his old age, this is the newest member of the Order, and despite only being introduced recently, he's humbled Sakamoto more than anybody else. He's obsessed with money and gambling, and it's the entire reason he attacks Sakamoto to indirectly train his ass so that the bounty on his head will increase since he owes 60 billion yen to the JAA. This is the whole reason he joined the Order to begin with, as he was already an assassin in the underworld for 50 years before his recruitment. And I mentioned Shishida being a master with his hammer, right? Well, when he tried to attack Torres' neck, the hammer broke instead, being chipped away by his sandblasters. Now, what the hell are sandblasters? Well, Torres uses these since he's too poor for guns, but these weapons allow him to damage the hardest metals and can crush objects into dust. But his insane feat that no one else has ever done before was destroying Sakamoto 5 times in a row. This is despite being in his slim form, and each time Sakamoto was growing ever so slightly stronger. You've also got to keep in mind that Torres never took Sakamoto seriously and wasn't trying to kill him. For him, this was light work. So honestly, he is in the top 5 strongest characters in the series at least, setting the benchmark that Sakamoto needs to surpass. But whilst he trains to reach that point, you can check out this video on your screen right now to learn more about all 6 members of Sakamoto's family and their history together.